Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Valentine's Day edition of the Downers Grove Village Council meeting. It is February 14th, 2017, and you can tell that our true love is the Village of Downers Grove because we're all here tonight with you, and thank you for joining us. It is my privilege to call this meeting to order. There are copies of our agenda on either side of the room. If you haven't already done so, please feel free to pick up a copy, and you can follow along with tonight's proceedings. There will be multiple opportunities for public comment, both with respect to things that are on tonight's agenda, as well as a special segment under item 5, which is reserved for public comments of a general nature. That is when members of the audience can ask questions or make comments of a general nature with respect to things that are not on tonight's agenda. The protocol at that point in time will be to come down to the podium, introduce yourself to us, and we'll welcome hearing from you at that time. But first, it is our very proud custom to begin our meetings by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, so I would like to ask everyone present to please rise and join us in reciting the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for joining us. Now I'd like to ask our fine village clerk, April Holden, to please call the roll.
Commissioner Wallace?
Here.
Commissioner Earl?
Here.
Commissioner Waldeck?
Here.
Commissioner White?
Here.
Commissioner Jose?
Here.
Commissioner Barnett?
Here.
Mayor Tully?
Here. Thank you very much. That brings us to item 3. We have a couple of very special things on tonight's agenda. The first one is, and how lucky are you not only to be here on Valentine's Day, but tonight is also the point in the year when we give the 2016 annual report. And it is my privilege to once again share with the community the annual report for the last year. And I will apologize in advance to the scout who came here to get the citizenship badge because it could be a long report. So you drew the short straw on Valentine's Day. The 2016 annual report provides a review of the accomplishments of the prior year and also a preview of potential goals and activities for the future. It's also sometimes known as the State of the Village Address, which is our version of the State of the Union Address. And of course, everyone knows that the State of the Union addresses by chief executives of various elected bodies have a long and proud history in the United States of America. Students of history will tell you that the first State of the Union message was given by President George Washington way back in 1790. It was delivered by him in person and was the shortest address to date. Some say it wasn't recorded. We had no Facebook Live at that point in time. Some say that it lasted only 10 minutes. On the other end of the spectrum, President Bill Clinton delivered the longest-lasting State of the Union speech. It was his final State of the Union address, and it lasted for an hour and a half. I promise to land somewhere in between. As a threshold matter, I want to remind the community that the village's long-range plan contains 5 strategic goals, which guide the village actions for the period 2015 to 2017 and beyond. And those strategic goals are: be good stewards of financial, environmental, and neighborhood sustainability, provide exceptional municipal services, provide and maintain top-quality infrastructure, provide strong and a diverse local economy, and continually innovate. You will see these strategic goals reflected in the actions of the last year that I will highlight tonight. And I say highlight because it's awfully hard to cram an entire year of activity into what I hope, and I don't know what the over-under is on the length of the address, about 30 minutes. So let's begin with something that's taken from the motto of the village itself, which is, we preserve the balance between tradition and progress. And I'll talk a little bit later about some of the progress that we made this year in reinvesting in our community. But in 2016, we not only made progress, we preserved history. By way of background, the village's original historic preservation ordinance was passed in July of 2007. And after that, there were 2 homes that were landmarked: the Drew House in 2008 and the Bungie Mansion in 2009. But that was it. And the community and the council weren't satisfied with the preservation efforts that were taking place, and heard from the community and others who were involved some of the barriers and some of the challenges that were presenting to those who had a desire to voluntarily landmark their homes. And of course, Downers Grove, being founded in 1832, has a very proud and rich history and many, many historic places, people, and things to celebrate. So with the help of a lot of folks, the Village Council adopted a new and revised historic preservation ordinance on December 15th, 2015. This ordinance, as mentioned, was the result of extensive community participation at both the Architectural Design Review Board stage, an ad hoc subcommittee on historic preservation, members of the public contributing, and of course, meetings of the Village Council amongst ourselves and with village staff. The results were extraordinary, and the impact was almost immediately felt. In the span of just 1 year, we had 9 buildings historically preserved and landmarked in our community. The Air House, the Melchior Gertie House, the Herring House, Alexander and Nancy Foster House, our own Main Street train station, the Foot House, which you'll hear more about in a minute, the Kruger House, the Cole House, and the Bernard House. All of those historic places and buildings were landmarked in 1 year as compared to just 2 in a number of years. And more on the way. In fact, later on tonight's agenda, probably one of the most iconic places in the entire village is up for a vote for landmark designation under our new ordinance, and we couldn't be prouder with the success that it has achieved. One of the objectives of this effort was not just to change the ordinance so that more people would feel comfortable and find it easier and more convenient to landmark their historic homes, but also to increase public awareness and to celebrate the various historic people, places, and things within our community. One celebration that took place as part of truly a grassroots efforts by a number of folks in the community was the naming of the honorary Emerson Foote Avenue in September of last year. As mentioned, the Foote home was already landmarked. It was originally constructed by Emerson Foote in 1892, and his family, although he had passed away before the home was completed, his family resided there until 1905. Both Emerson Foote and Corinne Foote, his wife, played significant roles in the expansion of the village of Downers Grove well into the 20th century. This village council, in addition to landmarking the home, also passed a resolution designating that the portion of what is now Forest Avenue between Warren Avenue and Prairie Avenue received the honorary designation of Foote Avenue. And as part of that effort, the owners of the home, the Zeskis, invited out relatives, descendants of the Foote family. Scott Foote, the grandson of Emerson Foote, believe it or not, was located and came out and made a visit for the dedication of the street. He and his wife Ginger spent some time in Downers Grove and couldn't have been happier with how the whole experience went. And this was really just one of a number of examples of the community recognizing and elevating the importance of historic preservation in our community and celebrating it and raising awareness throughout the community. And yes, I think the village has really stepped up its efforts in that regard, both at the elected official and staff level, but the community really has too. And I would speak on behalf of all my colleagues in saying that we couldn't be prouder with the volunteer efforts that have taken place by citizens in the community. And time does not permit going into more detail than to point out organizations such as the Friends of the Edwards House, which has undertaken a great deal of effort to identify historic places, to help people do the research for their homes to facilitate the landmarking process. The American Foursquare Initiative that has really come to the forefront and received a lot of attention here in the community has all served to heighten awareness, appreciation, and celebration of historic places, people, and things in our community. I'm now understanding that it's become popular to want to landmark, and the Downers Grove Historical Society is actually working with folks to make sure that they actually have historic places before coming forward. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a good problem to have, and we're very pleased with the results that have taken place. So let's move to the next major topic I'd like to touch upon from last year, which is the village also advanced the village's facility sustainability plan, or translated loosely, our plans for what to do with our decrepit might not be the right word, and we can't use the word deplorable anymore, police station and village hall. Yes, the very building that you find yourself sitting in right now. This has been an ongoing task. I won't go through the entire history, but there have been a number of efforts to try to solve this challenge, which have been unsuccessful for various reasons over time. But this council, as in past councils, are committed to achieving a solution because, unlike other things, such as fine wine, this problem does not get better with time, and a solution is far past a time for execution. In 2016, the Village Council adopted a plan for addressing the police station, which was a more cost-effective approach than what had been discussed earlier. It involved an addition and a renovation to the police station alone, but did not do anything in terms of a long-term solution for the Village Hall. It also didn't really take advantage of the proximity and location and value of the Village campus that we currently sit on. As part of the Downtown Zoning and Comprehensive Plan Review that was also begun in 2016, the Village Council saw that it made sense to take a step back and assess the broader potential options that might be available for using the Village campus property before making the investment in a police station addition and renovation that would essentially be located smack dab in the middle of the Village campus and restrict and limit the ability to do other things down the road. So wisely, the council paused to see what types of options might be available that would be economically as attractive and yet provide a more comprehensive and broader solution. In other words, number one, solving both the police station and the Village Hall puzzle permanently, and number two, maximizing the opportunities and value from the Village campus that all these buildings currently sit on. The Village has now been presented with a number of different options that we are in the process of assessing and scrutinizing, and more will come on that. But that was a big part of what we did in 2016, among some of the other things. The other thing that happened in 2016, which I'm sure everyone remembers, is that the community decided to retain our current stormwater utility model. Again, stepping back, a little bit of brief history. The stormwater maintenance, capital, and operation costs historically have been paid for primarily by this community through property taxes. In January of 2013, the Village of Downers Grove adopted a stormwater utility model, which instead of using property tax to pay for these things, utilized a system whereby a fee was assessed that roughly approximated what the runoff might be from a property in order to generate funds that would be solely dedicated to paying for stormwater maintenance, capital, and operational expenses. That model works by generating charges all property owners a monthly stormwater fee based on the property owner's impact to the stormwater system, again, as used by a proxy through something called an ERU. The community had a number of years of experience now with the stormwater model as opposed to a property tax model. And in 2016, the Village Council put 3 questions on the ballot, giving the community a voice in whether or not they wanted to either keep the stormwater utility model as it's currently in place, number 2, go back to paying for these expenses through property taxes, or 3, pursue some sort of a hybrid where portions would be paid by property taxes and portions would be paid by a stormwater utility fee. The community was engaged with a great deal of information, and I think all of us owe a great deal of gratitude to Village staff for coming up with some really terrific information campaigns. As noted up on the slide, the campaign was entitled Stormwater Utility, Y-O-U, and it was an education program to really let the community know where we had been, what we were doing, and where we might go if changes were made. A stormwater calculator was created, which allowed residents to visit the Village website and punch in for themselves how they would be affected under a property tax system or how they would be affected under a stormwater utility system. And we received overwhelming involvement in that calculator, over 6,000 hits, and received lots of compliments and comments from members of the public that they really appreciated plugging in their own numbers for their own properties and seeing how all of this impacted them. The Village also generated about 20 short-form videos, and we'll hear more about short-form video format a little bit later, to help educate the community on what stormwater management is, what the expenses are, and how funds have been generated both historically and presently for paying for those expenses. As many of you know, in the November election, I know there was nothing else going on in the November election, but in the November 2016 election, those 3 referendum questions were put to the public, and the results were pretty darn clear. By a margin of almost 2-to-1, residents of Downers Grove voted to maintain the current system of generating funds to pay for stormwater matters, that being the current stormwater utility model. And this is important because, as I'll talk about a little bit later, stormwater maintenance, capital, and operation costs are part of our continued investment in the sustainability of our critical infrastructure. One thing that we're always very mindful and keeping an eye out towards is enhancing our collaboration with other local governments, and 2016 was no exception. In 2016, after over a decade of having not done one, the village hosted another super retreat. What is a super retreat, you might ask? It was an opportunity for the village to meet collaboratively and communicatively with other elected bodies in towns such as the District 99 School District, District 58 School District, the Downers Grove Park District, the Downers Grove Library, townships, et cetera, et cetera. All told, 9 different local entities participated in an evening of presenting what our common challenges and objectives and goals are, which fostered communication, cooperation, and collaboration among these different entities. Received a lot of good feedback from that meeting. A lot of different, I think we learned a lot about what some of the other taxing bodies are doing, who have very close to shared constituents with the village of Downers Grove. And it's always remarkable how we find out that a lot of us face the same challenges. And we always identify new opportunities for how we can work together and provide better services at a lower cost for our shared constituents. So this is something that I hope we get to do again without waiting another 14 or 15 years or whatever it was before the last one. Moving right along, because I have to hit that mark, because I know people have money riding on this. Also in 2016, the village created a plan to increase sales tax revenue. This actually began in 2015 when the village council identified as one of its top priority action items, the creation of an economic development plan to enhance the sales tax base. The goal of the plan was to increase the village's sales tax base and total sales tax revenue. The plan was completed last year, and was based on AECOM, it's AECOM, Competitive Retail Alignment Study commissioned by the Downers Grove Economic Development Corporation. The key highlights of the plan, which were presented last year, were number 1, recommending various retail segments for attraction and retention. Number 2, recommending various tools for attraction and retention of business. The key thing there being that the more tools we have available to us, the better. Nothing is off the table in terms of how we can innovatively and creatively seek economic development in our community in order to drive things such as sales tax, which help us keep property taxes and other things down. This council remains committed to being innovative and creatively coming up with various combinations of tools that will most effectively deliver the results that we are seeking to achieve as identified in this and other plans. And the third and final segment of a key highlight of the plan that AECOM came up with was identifying various locations of retail development. And with this plan in hand, we now are pursuing various different opportunities and objectives to try to execute on some of those areas that were identified. I have to pause here, though, and point out that continued robust economic development efforts in the village of Downers Grove continue and are more important now than ever before. As many of you probably read in the press, there are many different communities, both locally, statewide, and even nationally, if not internationally, that are competing to attract major businesses, sales tax drivers, and so on and so forth. You're probably reading about some that are in play right now. Well, we work very hard to make sure that we are always in the best position to capitalize upon these opportunities when they present themselves, and sometimes even work really hard to try to create opportunities when we can. In 2016, just to hit a few highlights of businesses that we saw come to the village of Downers Grove or officially open, many have been able to visit Alter Brewing Company, Downers Grove's first home brewed, no pun intended, brewing company. Chipotle appeared on Ogden Avenue next to the Starbucks, which was a redevelopment of a former dry cleaners. We saw Duluth Trading Company come to Downers Grove. Glanvia Performance Nutrition, a subsidiary of the Dublin-based company, began an almost 30,000 square foot expansion of their North American headquarters here in Downers Grove. Grand Appliance and TV opened a new store. Just to name a few more, Packy Wed Ford, of course, everyone has seen the activity on Ogden Avenue, a long vacant spot, so vacant I can't even remember how long it's been vacant, is currently now going to be the new home of the Packy Web Ford dealership, also bringing more activity to the village of Downers Grove. So 2016 was good, but it's not something that we can rest on our laurels. We need to continue into 2017 and beyond to be vigilant and robust in our economic development efforts in order to maintain the same type of robust economy that we've had in our community. And we are committed to doing that both directly and through the Downers Grove Economic Development Corporation as well as our own staff. I mentioned communication, cooperation, and consolidation earlier. One of the other top priorities of the village in 2016 was to identify and implement a major consolidation. And the one that presented itself as a great opportunity was for the Village of Downers Grove, rather than maintaining its own 911 call center, to move to a regional solution, which is the DuPage Public Safety Communications, or DUCOM for short. Again, a little bit of history here, since history is our theme tonight. Over the years, the village has always kept an eye open towards when it made sense to do something here locally as opposed to doing something regionally in conjunction with others over a broader period or a broader space. For example, many years ago, Downers Grove used to have its own SWAT team, and that made sense for many, many years. But there came a time when it made more sense to look at a more regional solution for providing that same type of service, which is the type of service you hope to never need, but when you do need it, you want to have it, and you want to have it there at high quality. So in the early part of last decade, the village at that point in time assessed the situation and determined that it made sense, instead of having our own SWAT team, to instead move to a regional SWAT team called FIAT. And that has worked out really well for the village over the years, allows us to focus on other things while still maintaining that level of public safety service for our community. By way of background, that same kind of thought and thinking came into our decision to move into DUCOM instead of maintaining our own 911 call center. It didn't always make sense to do so, but it's something that we always assessed, and it came to a point in the last couple of years where it did make sense. And so we looked at it very carefully. Is this an opportunity for consolidation, for the village to move to a more regional solution? And the answer was yes. It made more sense because it allowed us to deliver the equivalent service in a more efficient and cost-effective way, and allow us to focus our resources here locally on other things while still providing the same kind of emergency public safety service that the community has both known and deserves. This, of course, move was also consistent with increasing state and county focus on consolidation of units of government, and had the benefit of reducing, for us, the size and cost of planned improvement and replacement of the police station facility, which I mentioned a moment ago. Not having our own 911 call center here gave us some additional flexibility and opportunities for cost reduction with respect to solving our facilities challenge. Speaking of emergency services, one of the other big events of 2016, and another example of terrific collaboration with other agencies, was in August of 2016, the Downers Grove, DuPage County, the Burlington Northern Santa Fe, and numerous other public safety agencies collaborated on a railway emergency training exercise. And for those of you who saw the pictures or saw this on the news, it was a simulated derailment of a train car with both passengers and some not so pleasant chemicals, and how agencies both here in Downers Grove and surrounding areas would respond in that incident. The timing was perfect because we had gotten some questions from various folks, given news stories about Bakken crude rail cars derailing in certain towns. What is our plan? How would we handle that? So basically, rather than talk about the plan, we simulated an actual event in order to put the plan into action. And we could not have been prouder by the performance of our first responders in collaboration with other agencies in the area, including DuPage OHSEM, which is our version of Homeland Security. Developed a hazard-specific railroad disaster plan that was tested during this event. And of course, as with any plan, when you do a tabletop like this, although this was way beyond tabletop, this was actually out in the field, you learn how to improve the plan even better than what it was before. So that was a terrific opportunity and a fantastic example of collaboration amongst different entities here in our community, all for the public safety benefit of both Downers Grove and beyond. I mentioned earlier that one of our strategic goals is to be good stewards of various different things, and I want to talk about a few of those right now. In 2016, we once again were good stewards of public dollars by successfully managing our budget. Our good stewardship of our budget and our finances here in Downers Grove was reflected not just in our words. I like to say this, you don't have to take our words for it, you can take Standard & Poor's words for it. We, as a municipality, have a bond rating. That bond rating is determined by independent entities such as Standard & Poor's. I'm very proud to say that last year we retained our AAA municipal bond rating, which is the highest rating that we can possibly achieve. That rating is driven by a number of things, including strong management practices here at the village that led Standard & Poor's to give us that high rating. The village also received a certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting from, for the for our Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, or our CAFR, and we received that acknowledgement from the Government Finance Officers Association, or the GFOA. This, remarkably, is the 7th consecutive year that our village finance director, Judy Butney, and her staff have been honored with this significant achievement, which reflects the commitment to meeting the highest principles of governmental budgeting. So once again, it's not just that we believe we're doing a good job. We're receiving that external confirmation that, in fact, the village's financial position is strong and well managed. A few other things that I know those of you in the audience will want to know in terms of, well, that's all great, but what did it mean for us? Well, for example, in 2016, the village added over $200,000 to its general fund balance, saved $1 million in debt costs by refinancing 2008 stormwater bonds, largely due to that AAA bond rating that we were able to maintain. So when you hear us talking about the importance of maintaining our AAA bond rating, one of the direct consequences it has for all of us is that when we have opportunities to refinance municipal debt, such as bonds that have been issued for infrastructure projects, that rating allows us to achieve a much more attractive interest rate, and in this instance, last year, saved us $1 million in debt costs. That's terrific. Once again, the budget for 2017 that we are operating under now, that was prepared in 2016, is a fully balanced budget, and we're very glad to say that the 2017 budget that we developed in 2016, once again, has no increase to the property tax levy for operations, and this is the 6th year running. I'll come back to that a little bit later, because while that's a remarkable achievement, it's not one that you can maintain forever, but more to be said on that later. We are also good stewards of the environment. The Village of Downers Grove has been very proud of a number of different programs, such as alternative fuels for its fleet, using solar power and other alternative fuels, as well as being green whenever we can. We have a green business program where we identify and celebrate and recognize businesses in the community for their green approach. One of the things that was launched in 2016 was something that had been asked for by a number of folks in the community, was recycling cans in the downtown. So through our negotiations with our solid waste provider, we were able to add this benefit to the community, and I'm sure many of you have seen in the downtown the blue-topped cans at various locations, encouraging residents and visitors alike to recycle bottles, cans, and paper. This both supports environmental sustainability and reduces refuse going into our landfills. I mentioned that beyond the recycling program that was launched in 2016, the village has a constant focus and appreciation for sustainable practices, and that was recognized again by an external agency in 2016 when the village received the 2016 Sustainability Practices Award from the suburban branch of the American Public Works Association. This is an award that recognizes the commitment and practices that the village has taken to make sustainable practices a cornerstone of our community. Stewardship continues with efforts that we took last year as before to be good stewards of our public assets. And what I mean by that is that we continue to invest in maintaining our critical infrastructure. Just to give you some statistics, in 2016, the village invested $15 million in its critical infrastructure, including 8.5 miles of street improvement projects, 12 different stormwater improvement projects, 885 sidewalk segments were repaired, and over 8,000 feet of water mains were taken care of in 2016 as part of that program. I mentioned short format video productions, and I also mentioned the recycling program and a few other things, such as the stormwater utility program. These were all featured in short format videos, or actually short form video format is what it's called in the business. Which is a new way that the village has been engaging with the community. These videos have proved to be very, very communicative and engaging with the audience on a number of different topics. And we've used it for identifying various programs, various events, such as the recycling program, such as getting information out about the stormwater utility referendum that I mentioned a while ago, and other programs such as Click It or Ticket, child passenger safety, some of the other things that you see up there on the slide. This format has not only been very effective, but believe it or not, has now received not one but 2 different awards from external agencies as a very effective method of communicating with the community. One of the things that we did in 2016, I thought in a very effective and efficient way, was we facilitated an unprecedented council transition. In 2016, we had not one, but two members of the village council resign for various reasons and move on to other challenges in their lives. And that gave us the own challenge of filling two council vacancies, understanding that we had a lot of different matters that were facing us, not the least of which was the budget that I just talked about a little while ago. We were able to very quickly, and I think very effectively, fill those two vacancies that occurred earlier this year. And for them, we had at least 13 different applicants within the community who were interested in those spots. We were very pleased and very proud to appoint as a council both Commissioner Marge Earl and Commissioner Nicole Wallace as our newest members, and did so in a fashion that allowed us to continue with village business in an uninterrupted fashion. Both Commissioner Earl and Commissioner Wallace were able to quickly join us, get up to speed, and participate in every way, shape, or form in that 2017 budget that I mentioned a while ago, as well as some of the other things such as the facilities plan, the comprehensive plan review, and other major projects that we have ongoing in the community. So we were very glad to see some new faces in old spaces in 2016. Speaking of downtown redevelopment, some other projects, some folks have approached me, and I'm sure some of my colleagues who don't live in Downers Grove have asked me the question, what's with all the cranes in Downers Grove? What do you guys got going on? Yes, there's a fair amount of construction activity going on in the downtown area. Anyone who's paying attention will notice there's at least 4 within about a mile or so of the central downtown area, if we picked Maine and Burlington, for example. There has been a long-standing objective in this community to reinvest in our downtown. As I mentioned earlier, our motto is to preserve the balance between tradition and progress. We had a great year in 2016 for preserving tradition. We also had a pretty good year in making progress. And progress includes reinvesting in our community because entropy is not a good concept. If you don't keep putting effort into keeping things or improving them, they will fall into disarray, and that is not something that we want to allow in Downers Grove. In order to maintain a vibrant community and a vibrant downtown, one must not only preserve what is unique about it, but also reinvest in the new in order to stay relevant and to stay ahead of the curve. And 2016 saw the beginning of a number of different projects. And this is also important because of the downtown tax increment financing district that was created originally back in the late 1990s to support the reconstruction of the infrastructure in downtown. Some of you may remember the year when the entire downtown was torn up in order to replace the infrastructure that was so old that I believe there were actually some clay pipes that were pulled up that had dates on them from the late 1800s. That's how old some of the infrastructure was. So the downtown TIF was created, and part of the model and the plan for that was to have some significant redevelopment of the downtown, some reinvestment, and also to bring more people to the downtown to support shops and restaurants and businesses and take advantage of our proximity to the metro. Current projects that began in 2016 and are currently under construction, I'm sure many of you know them. Some of them are up on the screen here. There's the Marquis and Maple, which is under construction right now, which are condominiums on Maple Avenue. Main and Maple, 115 apartment units that will be, they've broken ground on. You'll see things coming out of the ground pretty soon. Burlington Station over on Forest Avenue, which is going to eventually have 89 units, is currently has broken ground and is under construction, and other projects are going on in the area as well. All of these projects will benefit the downtown TIF, help to pay back some of the debt that was taken out to undertake that massive infrastructure project from the late 1990s and early 2000s, and also bring more people into the downtown to help support the restaurants, shops, and other activity in our downtown to help keep it vibrant, not only today, but for many, many years in the future. Well, I mentioned that just because I say that it's so, that we're a terrific community here in Downers Grove, you don't have to take my word for it. 2016 saw us receive additional external accolades and awards from various organizations for, being a pretty neat community. I already mentioned our short format video productions have won not one but 2 different awards, and I had the privilege of presenting along with village staff for one of those awards, which we received from the DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference as one of the most innovative communities in 2016 for that very program. Our Village Fleet received one of the top 20 Green Fleet Awards in North America, again emphasizing our commitment to being green and sustainable and respecting the environment. And of course, the hands down best award that we got was from a website that said that Downers Grove was the best place in Illinois for trick-or-treating. I mean, after that, we can just all go home. So with that, I will wrap it up. What's on the screen now is a list of some of the really key individuals in our community, the ones that actually make it tick and work day in and day out to make Downers Grove the wonderful place that it is and will continue to be, and one that receives the kinds of awards and accolades that I mentioned. And we owe them a great debt of appreciation for everything they do for our community. Our best role is to identify top quality people, give them good direction, give them reasonable means by which to implement that direction, and mostly to stay out of their way and let them do their jobs, of course holding them accountable at the end. And I think our staff here does a pretty darn good job of that, both historically, currently, and we have every expectation they will continue to do that in the future. None of these things that we've talked about in 2016 or that are working on in 2017 would be possible without them. So I know on behalf of myself and my colleagues, we thank all the village staff, both here at 801 Burlington and throughout the community, for everything they do to really make Downers Grove the great place that it is to live, work, play, and thrive. We are well positioned for the future, which is my answer to the question, Mayor Tully, what is the state of the village? Well, the answer to that question is we are well positioned for the future. And when I say that we're well positioned for the future, I mean that we are well positioned both to encounter and to deal with challenges and also to take advantage of opportunities. There will be challenges in 2017 and beyond. One of the things that I mentioned a moment ago is that for the last 6 years, we have kept our property tax levy basically flat for operational purposes. That is not sustainable, cannot do that forever. Everyone knows that expenses go up, and the only way to deal with them is either to increase your revenue to pay for them, or you have to eliminate services, or come up with some other combination of the two. So those challenges will continue to present themselves to us. To date, our staff has been very creative in figuring out ways to allow us to continue to do that in ways that have allowed us the luxury of not having an increase in our property tax levy in order to pay for our operational services, which is the majority of what the services are that we deliver to the community. We will continue to challenge them to do that, but it will become and has become more and more and increasingly more difficult. It is not something that can be done indefinitely. So we as a community will have to work together in how to do that. One of the major challenges that continues to lurk for the village is, of course, unfunded liabilities, including public safety pensions and other post-employment benefits. These are issues that are largely beyond our control because they are dictated to us by Springfield. And while there are efforts that are discussed from time to time in providing some relief for municipalities, that will continue to be a challenge. And just to give you an idea of how this is a challenge for municipalities, and it's not just Downers Grove, it's all municipalities, but in our community, the levy for public safety employee pensions has increased 46.8% over the past 5 years, rising from $3.74 million in 2012 to $5.49 million in 2016. Again, that is not sustainable. Something is going to have to happen, and whether it's change in Springfield or something else, that's not a path that we can sustain. So we have challenges in front of us. But, as mentioned, we are well positioned to deal with them because we have been so responsible and we have planned ahead. We are also well positioned for opportunities because we are at a point, I believe, now when we have tackled or will shortly tackle most of our major current challenges. And this allows us a luxury that often one cannot enjoy, which is being proactive and not reactive. We can be contemplative and mindful about long-term issues, such as changes in the economy long-term, such as changes in the way people live, how they commute, and how that will affect a municipality, and start to think about how do we put steps into place now that can plan for things that may not manifest themselves for 10, 15, or even 20 years, long after, hopefully, all of us are no longer on this dais. If we're still here, then, well, we won't, because we have term limits. That is a luxury, and this council is at a point where, because of the hard work of the current and former councils, we are at a place where we can start thinking about those long-term things rather than dealing with and being reactive to the emergency of the day. And I will knock on whatever this is made out of, but hopefully there won't be any curveballs that will detract us from that. We have that opportunity also because, as mentioned, we were able to fill 2 council positions, and also we have an uncontested election for the 2017-2019 council, which also means that we are an established council, and that too allows us to be more proactive than reactive, thinking about those challenges that we know are coming, that we know the economy will throw at us, that we know the life in general will throw at us, and how can we best address them proactively for the benefit of our constituents. With that, and I haven't been keeping time, so I don't know who wins the bet, I want to thank, last but not least, my colleagues in the Village Council, because it really takes all 7 of us working together in a collaborative environment. Although we may not agree on everything, working together we can come up with a solution that I think everyone can support for just about everything. And none of that is possible without the residents of Downers Grove, both those who live here individually and those who have their businesses here and their livelihoods here. Without your support, contributions, and engagement, which is something we deeply, deeply respect and appreciate, none of the things that I talked about happening in 2016 would be possible, nor would the ability to be proactive and well positioned to take advantage of opportunities and to meet challenges in 2017 beyond. So with that, I will bring the 2016 annual report to a close, and thank you for your rapt attention, and God bless us all for 2017. With that, we'll move to item 4 on the agenda, which pertains to minutes of prior council meetings. We have one set of minutes to review and approve tonight. If there are no changes or corrections, I'll ask for a motion to approve the council meeting minutes from our February 7th, 2017 meeting.
Martelli, I move that this council approve the meeting minutes from February 7th, 2017 as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Those minutes are approved. And now we're at item 5. So you were all very patient and let me talk for quite some time. Now is your opportunity to make any comments or ask any questions of a general nature of the Village Council. If there are any members of the audience have any questions or comments of a general nature with respect to things not on tonight's agenda, please come down to the podium, introduce yourself, and we welcome hearing from you. I will say that even though the State of the Village Address or the 2016 Annual Report was on the agenda tonight, if there are any questions that anyone has about anything that I covered during that report, I would welcome you to come down and ask those questions as well. Any questions or comments of a general nature from anyone in the audience at this point in time? Good evening, welcome.
Good evening, Laurel Bowen, 829 Clyde Drive. Clyde Country Estates is located, for those of you who might not know, south of 59th Street. It's just west of the YMCA by between the Y and Main Street, and it goes to 61st Street. About a year ago, we spent a long time discussing with the council the project that I think the Village Council approved for somewhere close to $3 million to redevelop our neighborhood of 100 homes, 100 ranch homes primarily, about 65-year-old homes, wide lots because they're ranch homes, country lane, winding. No stormwater test study was done of Clyde Estates. No, the project was not put forth before the Stormwater Committee that is staffed by volunteers from the community. And no traffic study was done, nor was it put before the Traffic committee that is staffed by neighbors and the volunteers in the community. I have some concerns about a year later of the project, which questions the village management and the hiring practices. The asphalt was the last part of the project, and already there's cracks, extreme cracks in the asphalt, not only in the middle of the roadway, but along the side of the roadway. All we asked for was the street to be paved. It had not been paved in over 30 years, and it was crumbling. So they rebuilt the roadway, and now the road is already cracking from the middle out to the sides. There are puddles in the road. The side of the road, when it was reconstructed, it did not keep the same road structure as it was. They redesigned the roadway, and now the turning of the vehicles is eroding the side of the roads as well. Some of our driveways were repaved after the stormwater was installed, the stormwater system was installed, and there are stones in the asphalt. That brings me to the parkway that was replaced in our properties all throughout our community. Just in a 2-foot square area in my parkway, these rocks were put back in my yard. Quite large rocks. I don't think you'd find this acceptable if it was in your yard. They didn't roll the roadway, the parkway before they put the sod in, after they put dirt back in with rocks, and they rolled it after the sod was put down, so now we have sod that's in our yard that, my sod looks dead right now. It doesn't even look like my regular yard does. And when you mow the lawn, your foot goes into holes. And that gets back to our staff. We talked to our staff frequently about these issues as the project was ongoing. And at one point, the project manager, Mr. Topor, informed a few of us that if we complained anymore, we would be charged by the contractors that did the project, which I've been told since that that's not true. We were also told that topsoil comes with rocks when we complained about the rocks in our yard. And we showed them the rocks, and they came by with pink paint and painted our dirt and our grass, and nothing ever happened. I just bring this forward because I called Public Works this week, and I called Tom Topor's phone number, and a woman answered, and I asked her if she was replacing Tom Topor, because Tom wasn't there, and she was pretty flip with me and wouldn't tell me if she was replacing him or not. She didn't indicate anything except when I asked her what her position was, she told me she was an engineer. And then when I asked her to transfer me to the operator, she said she couldn't, she didn't know how to. I asked her how long she was there, she said a month. I said, you're an engineer, you can't transfer me to the operator? So all of these issues make me question why we have issues like this coming up when we're spending so much money. We had resident after resident speak out here. We had a few of you come out to the community, to our neighborhood and walk when we had concerns about this project from the start. And I just want to make sure that you all know that this project should be reevaluated. The contractors need to be held responsible. We need to get our money back if they can't even pave the road properly. And I'd like to know why I have rocks in my topsoil, because when I buy a topsoil bag at the grocery store or at the yard store center, I don't get rocks in it.
Thank you for sharing those things with us, Ms. Bowen. And I had the opportunity to talk with you a little bit before the meeting, and as mentioned, we'll probably swing by on Saturday, see how things are looking out in the neighborhood. I know that this will be the first spring after the project was completed, and obviously we'll see how it fared throughout the winter. But thank you for sharing that with us. Other questions or comments from members of the audience of a general nature? Well, thank you for the ones that we have. Hearing no further comments of a general nature, We'll move to item 6, which pertains to public hearings. We do have a public hearing tonight, and there are some procedures that I need to go through for these, because as they say, there are rules for these kinds of things. This public hearing will please come to order. This public hearing has been called by the Village Council to consider submittal of application to the take two. This public hearing has been called by the Village Council to consider submittal of an application to the County of DuPage for Community Development Block Grant funding for the Burlington Highlands Stormwater Infrastructure Improvement Project. Notice of this hearing was published in the Suburban Life on February 1st, 2017. The procedures for tonight's meeting will be as follows. First, there will be a presentation by David Fieldman, Village Manager for the Village of Downers Grove, who will present information related to the application. Second, there is an opportunity for questions or comments from members of the Village Council. Third, there will be an opportunity for questions or comments from the members of the public. These may include either written or oral statements, as well as any petitions or other documents or information relevant to this public hearing. And fourth and finally, thereafter, we will adjourn the hearing. Please note that at this hearing, witnesses will not be sworn, and a verbatim written transcript of the statements or testimony given at the hearing will not be prepared. However, a recording of the procedures will be made on village equipment and retained until minutes of the hearing have been prepared and approved by the Village Council. Now that we all know what the rules are, there will be a short test, and if everybody gets at least 80%, we can proceed with the public hearing. Just kidding. Mr. Fieldman, Village Manager, as mentioned, item 1, presentation of information related to the application, please.
Thank you. My presentation will be to present our Public Works Director, Nan Newland, who will give us background on this item.
Good evening, Ms. Newland.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd just like to show you a brief couple of slides just to give you some background on this project. The location of the project is, thank you very much, north of Ogden Avenue, west of Dorhofer Park, and the streets impacted include Janet, Bel Air, Sealy, and Virginia, to name a few. This area lacks adequate stormwater infrastructure and experienced structural flooding in the April 2013 storm event. The scope of the project includes installing new storm sewers within the public right-of-way, replacing some old clay storm sewers in this area, possible property acquisition, and the addition of some stormwater detention. This project was identified in the 2014 stormwater project analysis. It did experience flooding, as I said, in April 2013. It improved stormwater conveyance as well as add some detention. The approximate project cost is $1.5 million, which we're seeking 50% match from in federal funding for construction, and the village share of the funding is included in the stormwater fund. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about the project.
Thank you. Then we'll move on as previously advertised. Any questions or comments from members of the Village Council? Questions or comments from members of the Village Council? Hearing none, we'll go to item 3. Any questions or comments from members of the public? Good evening again.
Good evening, Laurel Bowen, 829 Clyde Drive. I'm glad to hear they're going to do a stormwater study up there. I failed to mention that just this past week I got a letter in the mail, which all of you should have in front of you, from the village. It's a form letter to all of us. I'm assuming that everyone got it in our neighborhood. They're going to do a stormwater study. Isn't that interesting? They didn't do a stormwater study before they put storm sewers in our neighborhood, even though we asked for it. And now that the project's finished, they're going to do a stormwater study. So there must be problems with the project. So this, again, is a concern I have with the contractors that we are hiring and the standards that we are not holding them to.
Thank you for your comments. Any other questions or comments of a general nature with respect to the subject of this public hearing? Thank you. Seeing that there are none, then are there any final questions or comments from members of the Village Council? I know you've been keeping them all until this point. Seeing that there are none, I will declare this public hearing adjourned. Thank you very much. That then brings us to item 7 on tonight's agenda, which is our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Martelli, I move that this council approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments from any members of the public with respect to any of the items on tonight's consent agenda? Questions or comments from members of the village council? Hearing that there are none, may I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner White?
Aye.
Commissioner Waldeck?
Aye.
Commissioner Wallace?
Aye.
Commissioner Earl? Aye. Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. Consent agenda passes unanimously. That brings us to item 8, our active agenda. We have one very important item on tonight's active agenda. I'm almost going to get choked up. Do I have a motion to adopt a resolution granting historic landmark designation to 4437 Seeley Avenue, otherwise known as the Pierce Downer Home?
Well, to follow up on our meeting last week, which was the eve of an exciting historic moment, I now move that this council adopt a resolution to designate the home at 4437 Seeley Avenue as an historic landmark.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments from members of the audience? Questions or comments from members of the village council? Well, I wasn't here last week, so I can't help myself. Commissioner White is spot on. This is truly a historic moment for many, many, many reasons. But it is perhaps, I don't want to say the pinnacle, because there's a lot more work to be done in the field of historic preservation in our town, and I at least have one other project that I want to attend to before 2019 comes and goes. But for many, many, many years, when the topic of historic preservation was discussed by just about anyone, and the question was raised, well, of course, Pierce Downer's home in Downers Grove, which is the namesake for Downers Grove, to the extent you're wondering, surely that home is protected. And unfortunately, until tonight, the answer was no, it's not. And whether they were short-term, long-term, or even visitors to the village of Downers Grove, usually the reaction was somewhat equivalent to being aghast. How can Pierce Downer's home not be protected in the village of Downers Grove, the community that he founded and which is named after him? And quite frankly, it was somewhat embarrassing that that was the case. And it is due to the efforts of many people, present council, past council, staff, members of the community, most importantly, Arthur and Judy Frigo, the owners of the Pierce Downer home, to bring this forward to this moment when we can take a vote on actually preserving Pierce Downer's home in the community that bears his name. It truly is a historic moment. It's well put, and it's long past due, but I am very deeply appreciative to the Frigos and everybody else who had any part in getting to this point, including those who worked on amendments to the ordinance, who worked on the presentations, who helped the research, who met with the Frigos and talked to them, and I know they are very, very proud to be putting this forward. We will not be giving a certificate tonight to the Frigos because they are unable to be here, but we wanted to move forward, and I know they wanted to move forward with the vote tonight to make sure that this was done. We will, however, be having a very special ceremony and presentation to them with respect to their certificate reflecting the designation and landmarking of the Pierce Downer home as a historic landmark in the village of Downers Grove. And I'm very glad to say that it will be in conjunction with a meeting of the Landmarks Illinois Preservation Council that will be taking place here in Downers Grove. I mentioned a while ago some of the things that were accomplished in 2016 in terms of historic preservation. The Landmark, I think I'm getting this right, Landmarks Illinois, which is the state organization for historic preservation and landmarking, took notice of the activity in the village of Downers Grove, and through conversations with some of our wonderful volunteers in the community, suggested that they hold their next Suburban Preservation Alliance meeting in Downers Grove as part of a reflection and an appreciation and an acknowledgement of all the activity that's happened in Downers Grove in that vein in the last year or so. And just so everyone knows that we will be properly recognizing this momentous occasion, we will be presenting the Frigos with their certificate and the appropriate ceremony at that meeting, which will be in March, and as I usually say, more details to come. But I think it's really a remarkable development, and I couldn't be more proud of the community and of this council and of the Frigos for making this possible. And with that, I will gladly call for a roll call on the landmark designation for Pierce Downers Home in the village of Downers Grove.
Commissioner White?
Aye.
Commissioner Waldeck?
Aye.
Commissioner Wallace?
Aye.
Commissioner Earl?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. Not surprisingly, that passes unanimously. That brings us to the end of our active agenda, and on to item 9, our first reading or our workshop agenda. This is a slightly different speed of the meeting. This is where items are presented for discussion and consideration purposes only. No formal action will be taken at this point in time. As is traditionally the case, staff will present the item for council consideration. A little bit of a change with these items at this part of our meeting. Typically, I'll let the council ask questions first so we can get the information that we need, and then we'll turn it over to the audience for any questions they may have before coming back to the village council. So a little bit more informal part of our meeting than the active agenda. And with that, as is customary, I will ask Village Manager David Fieldman to please introduce the items on tonight's first reading or workshop agenda.
Thank you, Mayor Tully. There are 2 items on tonight's first reading agenda. The first item, we are very excited to present this project that has a long history. An ordinance approving a redevelopment and land purchase agreement with Re-Urban Partners for the property at 5117 Main Street. And here to present background information on this item is our village attorney, Enza Petrarca.
Thank
Good
you.
evening, Ms. Petrarca.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am so happy to present this next item. As Dave said, it's an ordinance approving the redevelopment and land purchase agreement for the village property at 5117 Main Street. As some of you may recall, Village bought this property in 2001. It was originally proposed to be Phase 3 of Acadia on the Green development. Obviously, that never came to fruition. Village leased that property for a number of years, and unfortunately, the building has been vacant for the last several years due to its condition. The developer is now proposing to remodel the building and redevelop it as commercial, retail, and office space. The developer is not proposing to tear down the structure, but rather remodel the existing building and update the facade and leave the building as is. The redevelopment agreement includes the following key terms. They will redevelop the property in accordance with the concept plans attached to the agreement. The development agreement also contains a 60-day due diligence period, so we hope to close on the property near the end of April. The building is being purchased as is, and it's a $10,000 purchase price. And most importantly, the developer shall pay for all costs of the redevelopment project, and the village shall not provide any financial assistance. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and the developers are here as well to answer any specific questions you may have of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the council with respect to item 9A? Any questions or comments from members of the audience? Very good. Let's move to item 9B, please.
Thank you, Mayor Tully. It is an ordinance updating the village's comprehensive plan. This is a project we've been working on for many months, but this is the first of potentially many meetings for which the village council can fully vet and discuss this 5-year update to our comprehensive plan. As a starting point tonight, our Community Development Director, Stan Popovich, will provide an overview of the update to the comprehensive plan. But after tonight's meeting, all village council members are encouraged to contact staff and let us know any of your comments, questions, or concerns regarding the updated draft. Based on the village council feedback, the staff will develop a schedule for the further review and discussion of the update to the comprehensive plan. So what we're saying is, with this important discussion in update to an important document, this discussion will proceed at the pace and the level of detail as determined by the village council. I think this will make more sense when Stan provides us a starting point overview of the update. So with that, I will hand it over to Mr. Popovich.
Good evening, Mr. Popovich.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to go for the Bill Clinton time on this one, so I'll try to shoot for the George Washington time. The comprehensive plan update tonight, as Manager Fieldman noted, is here to provide an overview for you tonight. Sort of go over what a comprehensive plan is. It's a long-range guiding document. It's supposed to be visionary. It's not regulatory. I'm not going to see anything in the comprehensive plan that talks about a setback on Ogden Avenue. It's a vision for the community. It's really not designed to read like a book or a chapter book, or a good mystery, anything like that. It's really designed to be used on a daily basis. So this is my 2011 comprehensive plan. There's post-it notes. I've reinserted pages a couple of different times. It's a little faded, so it's a good comp plan. The back's pretty dirty too. So that's how we use it as a staff. Plan staff uses it on a daily basis, and so that's how the document's supposed to be used on a visionary way here, and how people look at it, and when people call us and ask for items as well. The plan is an award-winning plan. It received the 2012 Illinois EPA award for the best plan in the state. It was adopted October 4th of 2011. It was amended in July of 2015. The update of the comprehensive plan is a top priority action item as determined by the council here last year. This sort of goes over the schedule that we've had. You can see we've had multiple cracks at this updating the plan. We've had multiple meetings with the Comprehensive Planning Ad Hoc Committee. As you'll recall, we pulled out the downtown focus area plan for a plan commission recommendation in June. Council reviewed it in July. We had some individual discussions. We came back in October to review it, and then that was melded back into the draft updated plan. The Comprehensive Planning Ad Hoc Committee made a recommendation in November, and in December and January, the Plan Commission spoke about it and discussed it in a public hearing. And then again, we're here tonight, and as Manager Fielman said, open for additional meetings as well and additional discussion. So tonight's really an overview. You'll notice that there's about 1,500 changes in the document, everything from text, graphics, pictures, and graphics. This is the document that was prepared based on the Comprehensive Planning Committee's changes to the existing plan, so it's a pretty good document. A lot of details, a lot of things that changed are highlighted in there, a lot of the editorial stuff as well, if we've missed a comma or a period here and there. Some minor updates are located throughout the document. I'll go over through a few of them, not in too much detail, but Section 1, we added some previous projects from the past 5 years that were completed. Section 4, we talked more, we added a historic preservation section, updated our sidewalk section, and talked a little bit more about parkway trees. Section 5, we removed some discussion on the sign ordinance that was no longer pertinent. Section 6, again, we updated sidewalks, updated bus routes on pace, now that we no longer have the Downers Grove shuttle. Section 7, which is parks and recreation, we updated the park district mission and a couple of the parks that were on there. And then Section 8, we updated some facilities discussion, and then school board and the different school boards, their programs as well. And then Section 9, we updated focus area plans. I'll get into a couple of those focus area plans in a little bit more detail in a few minutes here. But then anything where we developed a catalyst site, we've updated those. The Packey website was a catalyst site that's now come off the plan. Walnut and Ogden Avenues, the Park District purchased a substantial portion of that lot, so that catalyst site has changed as well. And then Section 10, we increased the implementation descriptions on some of the funding sources that are available or some of the programs that are out there as well. Provide a few additional details on these couple of sections, 6 items here. I'm going to go over in a little bit more detail. First off with demographics, this is chart 1. You'll see some of we are aging in place, as you'll see in some of the proposals that we got coming forward to the council here in a little bit. We see our older cohorts growing, and then we also see the millennial generation growing potentially, not as much as the empty nesters, but they will be growing in the next 5 years as projected here. Additionally, with our income, we are becoming a little bit more of an affluent community as our income projection changes per household is changing as well on that end as well. See some decrease in the lower incomes, but an increase on the higher end of the income spectrum. Well, the vision, which is Section 2, that's sort of a reflection. So that's if somebody was writing it in 2031 to reflect back on how the village has grown and what's happened. So you see, we talk about the downtown, attracting millennials and empty nesters, maintaining downtown as a retail competitiveness in the area, stormwater improvements, corridor improvements, Ogden Avenue improvements, 63rd, 75th improvements, and then also talking a little bit about our office parks and our technology parks, the Ellsworth Industrial Park as well. And again, the high quality schools and parks, because that's what draw a lot of people to the community as well. Section 3, our future land use plan has changed a little bit, not too many modifications. Again, the big ones are Downtown is called out as review the focus area plan. It doesn't specifically call out specific sections of the future land use plan. Ogden and Walnut Avenues where the Park District proposed some land, and then Meadowbrook Shopping Center at 63rd Street, which we'll talk about a little bit in here in a few minutes as well. The downtown is the focus area that has received a lot of attention, rightly so, with all the new development, and to make sure that we are building what we're envisioning in the downtown. Highlighted here is the schedule again, and these are all the meetings where the downtown focus area plan was discussed. So you'll see there's a lot of discussion points that we've had about the downtown. It doesn't mean that there's an opportunity for more discussion, but there has been a good amount of discussion already, and we're looking forward to additional discussion at the council direction. Some of the big things that has increased in this area is we've identified historic structures. This is a map that's in the plan. There's a historic structures area that's hatched now. We've updated our catalyst sites as well. This is a map of some of the catalyst sites. Some of the catalyst sites have been developed, so those come off, namely the TCF Bank in the northeast corner of Main and Maple. And then additionally, we've developed a functional sub-area plan that we've developed through the council discussions with the Comp Plan Committee and the Plan Commission as well. This is an important section here. The functional sub-areas is the Comp Plan Committee is currently working on downtown development regulations, which melds into the comprehensive plan discussion moving on, where we will actually get into regulations for these areas as opposed to the visioning of the area that we've currently undergoing and talking about tonight a little bit here. The next area which was added into the contract for our consultants to look at was 63rd Street. This was not looked at previously, but it is a new focus area here in Section 9. They found, obviously there's 3 commercial nodes here. They looked at Meadowbrook as the catalyst site here on this corridor. They didn't find any other catalyst sites that could be catalytic in the sense that we looked for. 63rd Street, as you know, is really a mix of residential, some single family, some attached single family, some institutional, the high school, the grade school, churches, Park District land. So it's really a mix of uses along here. So that's what they looked at to enhance and beautify the corridor. One of the ideas that came out on the Catalyst site was the Meadowbrook redevelopment concept. Again, this is just one concept of potentially many concepts for Meadowbrook. If property owners determine that commercial doesn't work at this site anymore, if there's not a feasible way to make commercial in this area, this is one of the concepts that Housey Levine, our consultant, developed, was to put commercial more on the south side. This area map's a little messed up. You always want to put north on the top, but this is north on the bottom. But potentially to change some of these areas into more mixed residential here and some multifamily. But it does show some outlet development along the 63rd Street there as well. And again, this is just a possibility. This is a visioning goal and a visioning document, so this is something that could happen. But there's a million other visions that could be out there as well for this center. The other major update to Section 9, which wasn't part of the 2011 plan, was the 75th Street corridor. So again, 75th Street's a mix of residential and commercial, not much institutional here. It's a major commercial center for the village. There's a lot of shopping down in that area. They noted that we should look to improve pedestrian and bike connections, screen residential. One of the other concepts that was interesting was Nottingham subdivision at the southeast corner of 75th and Fairview, about having a discussion with Darien about annexing and servicing of those areas, because there's some areas that are in and out of those blocks where one house is in Darien, one house is in the village of Downers Grove. They also developed one catalyst site, which was the Grove Shopping Center. This again is a concept plan on what could happen if that property were redeveloped. 75th Street is on the south here, and then Main Street, I think that's still Lamont Road here at this intersection on the right. So this is oriented properly, so north is towards the top of the screen. But again, you see a redevelopment here with the larger lifestyle center concept. This also concept works for some larger big box retailers if they were to look to go into here. You see retail redevelopment along some of the outlots. And then on the right-hand side where you see on the left-hand side where you see number 4, potentially for some multifamily residential if this retail site is too big to support that much retail. But again, this is just a concept. Not set in stone, but sort of a visionary document that if somebody were to come in and look at redeveloping this property, what the village might see or might project. So tonight, that's my quick overview of the comprehensive plan. Again, there's over 1,500 changes that we've made. throughout the documents. It's a lot of changes. Next steps, as Dave iterated first, is at the council pace and level of detail here. Questions, comments, concerns, and then we'll develop a schedule about future discussions here. If there's any questions tonight, I'd be happy to answer those for you guys at this time.
Thank you very much, Stan. Appreciate the overview. And just to emphasize, it is just that, an overview. This is really the first time that this proposed version of the comprehensive plan update is being discussed at the council level. It's been discussed at the ad hoc level and at the plan commission level. And there's already been a lot of input and hard work by a lot of individuals, for which we are grateful. But this is really the first time it's being introduced at this level. So it is sort of an overview. Obviously, we'll take what time we need with it. I will emphasize and express my appreciation that we are doing this in a fairly timely fashion. Those who may recall, we had a comprehensive plan that was developed in 1965, and it wasn't updated until, what, 2011?
Correct.
We're doing much better. The 2011 plan was updated in 2015, and then the comprehensive review and update began last year, and we're now seeing the fruit of that labor. The idea is that we will revisit this document approximately every 5 years, which is a far more best practice than waiting 40 years to revisit it, because it was somewhat embarrassing to have a comprehensive plan that was as old as me being our document without an update. So I want to first say that I'm very pleased that we are doing this. This is a lot of work. It's a lot of work by a lot of people, but I think it is really, it's highly appropriate, and it's also appropriately reflective of the dynamic community that we have, and as changes take place in both our demographics, as you touched upon, and changes in the economy and changes in lifestyle, that this document be revisited on a fairly regular basis, and I think about every 5 years is appropriate, and I'm glad to see that we're doing that. So with that, I'm just going to open it up for questions or comments from the members of the council, understanding that this is a journey, not a sprint. It's more of a process, and clearly there'll be lots of opportunities for input and discussion as we go forward. Obviously, we do want to bring it to some closure so it doesn't run into the next 5-year review, but there's no rush. So this is the first high-level opportunity. There will be more meetings, so I'll just leave it at that. Any initial high-level comments or questions?
I'd like to start with one sort of historical comment about the comprehensive process. Back in 2011, I had the opportunity to read the plan from the early 60s. And as I sit here today, the one comment that sticks in my mind from the 1964-65 plan was said that planning for Ogden Avenue remains a major challenge. And that's the one part of the 1964 plan that actually sticks out brightly in my mind.
What's that who song?
Oh, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Planning for Ogden Avenue remains a challenge and has for well over 50 years. There'll be more to come, but that's just that.
Understood. Obviously, this is the first crack. Questions, comments at this point? Commissioner Waldeck.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, it's a great document for everybody to review. It's online. I'm sure you can get it in papers somewhere by asking. A lot of demographics in there, a lot of, some history, some current status, some aspirations. Crying out loud, that's why you call it comprehensive. So, very comprehensive, and I thank the ad hoc committee and the plan commission and everybody who attended those meetings and staff for putting this document together so that we are where we're at now. As we look at it, this isn't going to be a quick study. It's like an elephant. You eat it one bite at a time. And there'll be plenty of opportunity for the public to attend meetings, to comment, and provide input. So there's plenty of time left, but don't wait too long. The sooner the public gets involved in the process, the better, and the better document we'll have. So thank everybody for their hard work, and now it's our turn to get to work. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you.
I'll jump back now. First of all, with the request, I know that I have a digital copy of the downtown pattern book, And I think when it comes to discussing the downtown sub-area of this, it would be beneficial if every member of council had that. I don't know where we stand on printing. I would like to see a printed copy if one's available. If not available, then that's fine too, because that's older. Because quite frankly, there's a number of wonderful concepts in there that I believe we should think about as we review the downtown section. I guess that next, I wanted to toss out my idea or a thought about how to move forward with this. Is this, this is a massive document, and I have some of the advantages. Commissioner Earl is that we were on the ad hoc comp plan committee in 2011, so we're familiar with the document. But there's others that aren't. So I think all of us need a chance to get comfortable with the document. But then in reasonably short order, a few weeks, I think each of us should feel the responsibility for contacting staff with those areas of concern, so that we can create a structure for a discussion. And I don't want any like strict short time limit, but at some point, if there's parts of this, and we should maybe reach out to our sibling governments that say that they have a chance to speak, to the extent that the ad hoc committee already hasn't done that if they're interested in weighing in, they'll be given that opportunity. And then maybe we can devise a schedule to review in depth those areas that members of the council are concerned about, maybe review in less depth those areas where all of us seem to be in agreement, but in theory, review everything. That's just sort of a procedural suggestion, seeing what everyone else feels about that.
I think that makes sense, that in some reasonable period of time, whether it's 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I don't think it makes 6 of this, half does the other, but some reasonable period of time, that to the extent there are areas of either concern or perhaps where there are thoughts about further revisions, whether conceptually or line item, that we do try to consolidate those and get those to staff so that we can then focus future meetings. Not that will limit necessarily what we can talk about, but to your point, that we can then focus the conversation on those areas so that we can try to make some mindful progress forward. Again, we can move at a pretty leisurely pace, but we do want to finish this before we run into the time for the next 5-year review. I'm really kidding when I say that.
I would appreciate that.
I mean, realistically, though, the idea is to provide a plan that can be utilized, and if it's not, I mean, yes, it's a dynamic document that should be revisited and revised, but it has to have some firmness of form in order to serve its purpose. So I agree with your suggestion.
Other than that, I start diving into specifics, and I'm not sure it's time to do that this evening.
Well, I have a feeling we're going to have plenty of opportunities, but if anyone has anything they want to dive into now, such as, I really hate page 63, take it out, or something like that, welcome to hear from you. All right, well, let's do this. Why don't we turn it then to the audience for any initial high-level preliminary comments, understanding that, again, this is a journey, and there will be many opportunities for input, both live, in person, by email, et cetera, et cetera. If anyone has anything they would like to comment on or share at this point, please come down to the podium, let us know what you think. Please, form a line. Don't all stampede down at once. Maybe I should have said, this is your final opportunity. You have 30 minutes. Okay, but seriously, there will be plenty of opportunity to digest this and provide comments going forward. Obviously, we intend to do that as well. So before coming back to the council, Commissioner Earl?
I do see a whole row of people in the back there who really deserve a lot of thanks. They're here almost every meeting. They've been through thick and thin with this comp plan revision, and I just want to thank them for all their hard work and all the time they put in, and a real analysis. And we have a great group of volunteers in this community, and they come out and they work real hard for us for free. So thank you very much. I do appreciate it. And I was on the beginning of this. I know how sometimes often the weed things can get in the discussion of a comp plan, and because you just follow that tangent as it goes normally, and it can get a little bit challenging for staff to bring it back and to focus what's been talked about and what's said. And they've done a really nice job, and especially presenting us with the track change document. where every single change is highlighted. And I want to thank them for that too, and House A. Levine for their work as well.
Well said. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Just making sure. All right. Well, we're at the beginning.
Thanks.
Well, very good. Well, thank you for introducing us. As they say, it is now in play.
And that ends our first reading tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, very good. And that brings us to item 10, the mayor's report. I have just one thing to report at this juncture, and that is to remind everybody that Coffee with the Council will be held this Saturday, February 18th, from 9 a.m. until 10 a.m. at the Downers Grove Public Library. This is an opportunity for members of the public to come and speak with members of the Village Council on a more informal basis about just about anything relevant to the village. So it's either the comprehensive plan or historic preservation or anything else that you might have in your mind. Come on down, have a cup of coffee, and we'd be happy to see you. Again, that's this Saturday at the Downers Grove Public Library from 9 till 10 a.m. Coffee with the Council. That's all I have. Item 11, Mr. Fieldman, back to you.
Just a program note that we will be hosting a special Village Council meeting on Tuesday, February 28th, here in this room or the room next door, the committee room, to have a deep discussion of the village facilities plan, including review of development proposals that were received for this Civic Center site. This is a follow-up on the information that Mayor Tully presented in the annual report just a few minutes ago. So Tuesday, February 28th, special Village Council meeting regarding village facility planning. And that ends my report tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That brings us to item 12, our village attorney's report. Hello again, Ms. Petrarca.
Hello, Mayor. Two items to present this evening. The first is an ordinance approving the redevelopment and land purchase agreement with Re-Urban Partners LLC, and an ordinance updating the village comprehensive plan. Thank you, Mayor. That's all I have.
Perfect. Thank you. That brings us to item 13, council member reports. This is an opportunity for members of the Village Council to share with the audience and those watching at home either items of interest to the community or goings-on in the community or other things that they may have to share in their various liaison roles. I'll start with my left tonight with Commissioner Barnett. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. I have no report.
Thank you. Commissioner Earl.
I do have a report. The library is deep into their strategic planning mode. They would like your input. You can find it on the library's homepage. You can stay in your pajamas and take the survey from home, or all next week they have multiple opportunities for focus group participation, and you can find all those days and times on the website as well. So I encourage you to go and give the library your feedback so they can plan as well for the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would pick up and concur with that. I had the opportunity to sit down with Library Director Julie Milovec for that very purpose for, oh gosh, must have been at least 45 minutes. So that process is well underway, and I would encourage everyone to do the same thing. It's your library and where you'd like to see it go and what you'd like to see it do for the future. Participate. It's your opportunity to have your voice heard. Thank you for raising that. Commissioner Jose.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to point out that if you were timing at home, the State of the Village address came in at just a hair over 40 minutes. That's the extent of my report. Thank you.
I was trying to take Bill Clinton plus George Washington, divide by 2, something like that.
George Clinton.
Commissioner, George Clinton, there you go. Good one, good one. Commissioner Waldeck.
Oh, I lost that bet. By a good 20 minutes. I was very optimistic.
It was a very active year, what can I say?
Actually, it hasn't been an assigned liaison role, but something very important happened recently that affects our residents. And, you know, we are the Village of Downers Grove. We're a municipality. We are your village council. There's your staff. But we also are served by 3 townships, Milton, Lyle, and a larger one is Downers Grove Township. And they met December 13th, and it was at that meeting that it was announced that Frank Worster, who's the supervisor of Downers Grove Township, kind of a Dave Fieldman counterpart for the township, although there's a lot of things that are different about the work. Anyway, Frank Worcester, who served the Downers Grove Township for many years, retired December 31st. The township trustees thanked him. Get this back here. They thanked him for his service and mentioned his many contributions, and I think we should wish him well in his retirement as well. Also at this meeting, the trustees appointed Mark Toman as Township Supervisor effective January 1st, 2017. So for those of you in Downers Grove Township, you now have a new Township Supervisor. And while they're from the minutes, so I don't want to embellish anything, and it's a quote, Trustee Abate said, Mark Toman has been actively volunteering for the township for many years, chairs the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee, has great leadership skills, and was recommended by Supervisor Frank Worcester and is a good person. Trustees Abate and Bolts agreed that Mark is a true servant of the community. And Mr. Toman has, many of you may recognize the name. He's served on many committees in the village. His name also appears on the comp plan. He has come to the podium many times over the years for comments, so if his name sounds familiar, that's how we know him. So we look forward to working with him and the township in future projects. And we wish him well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Wallace.
No report, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner White.
And no report.
Thank you. Just two things. One, speaking of the township, I also just wanted to mention the passing of longtime Downers Grove Township Assessor Terry Cockrell, who served in that role for many years, and she was also a lifelong resident of Downers Grove. She worked for the Downers Grove Township for 36 years and had been an assessor since 1983, and even before then had served in public service in this community. Her dedication to the residents of Downers Grove and Downers Grove Township is unsurpassed. We will miss her, and our sympathies and thoughts and prayers to her family on the passing of Terry Cockrell, who was, I mentioned, longtime Downers Grove Township assessor. And the last thing I want to mention is, of course, we're still here on Valentine's Day because, of course, service to the village is a labor of love. We had a lot of conversation tonight about historic preservation. And I think it would be appropriate to end with a quote that I came across earlier today when thinking about the different historic preservation items that we would have on our agenda tonight. And this comes from William Murtaugh. It has been said that at its best, preservation engages the past in a conversation with the present over a mutual concern for the future. And I'd like to think that we had that kind of a very positive conversation here tonight, and we will continue to do so in the future of Downers Grove. And with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Mayor Tully, I move that this council adjourn.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner White?
Aye.
Commissioner Waldeck?
Aye.
Commissioner Wallace? Aye. Commissioner Earl? Aye. Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, good night, and happy Valentine's Day to everyone.